When it comes to theme parks in Florida, you've probably heard of Universal, Disney, and SeaWorld. Now, Florida is a great state for roller coasters. While Orlando is great for thrills for everybody, there is yet another destination just an hour south that is a must-do for anyone who loves roller coasters. In Tampa Bay, we have one of two Busch Gardens parks, the other one being in Williamsburg, Virginia. Now, this park has a very good coaster collection. It has something for everybody. If you're a sucker for adrenaline or someone who enjoys something more tame, this park has got it. I don't want to spoil too much about this park in the intro, so let's just get right into this video. Now, this park opened its gates on March 31st of 1959, and it started off with mostly animal exhibits. When the park debuted, it did not open with any rides. It was not until the year of 1976 that they got their first roller coaster, which was one of Aero Development's Corkscrew clones. This ride operated for 30 years until it closed in 2006, and from there, Busch Gardens Tampa kept on adding new rides. By the year 2000, 24 years after Python's opening, the park was already up to 6 different roller coasters, with the additions of Scorpion, Kumba, Montu, and Gwazi. Remember that Gwazi had the lion and the tiger side, so it does count as 2 different experiences. And from the year 2000 to 2023, there have been 6 new additions to the park since. In 2004, they debuted Sand Serpent, which we don't talk about that ride. In 2005, Busch Gardens debuted SheiKra, which was the 3rd dive coaster in the world, which was the first dive coaster in the world to feature an inversion, a water break, and an actual 90-degree drop. In 2010 came the addition of Air Grover, which was the park's first kiddie coaster. I don't understand how it takes 34 years to slap in a simple kiddie coaster, but oh well. In 2011 was another major addition, and that was Cheetah Hunt. It's a family thrill intimate blitz coaster, and it's one of the best coasters in the park. 4 years later, in 2015, a second ride has met its demise and went standing but not operating for 3 years. That coaster, or those coasters, are Gwazi. It was a hit at first, but over time it has started to build a bad reputation for being rough. A year after its closure, a new family coaster debuted, and that was Cobra's Curse. This is a mock spinning coaster with excellent theming to fit the Egyptian-themed area. 3 years later, the park opened Tigris, which is a Premier Ride Skyrocket 2 clone. Now let's take a step back to Gwazi. 3 years after the ride closed, the ride was still standing but not operating, but not for much longer, where in September of 2018, Busch Gardens made plans to do something about this ride. A year later, in the same month, it was announced that Gwazi would be completely redone. It was said that the ride would be receiving a completely new layout with a top height of just under double of what Gwazi's original height was. The ride would be receiving new steel track atop its supports, but it won't be the same ride experience as the layout of the track is going to be completely redone. This project will be done by Rocky Mountain Construction, better known as RMC, and the ride was announced under the name Iron Gwazi. This would be the tallest, fastest, and steepest hybrid coaster in the world. This is yet another world-class addition to the park. It was advertised to open in 2020, but because of the COVID pandemic, the ride was delayed for 2 years. The track work was completed in 2020, and some cycles were even done, but the ride stood standing but not operating. Iron Gwazi opened to pass holders only on February 13th of 2022, and then to the public on March 11th, 2022. When enthusiasts got to ride this for the first time, this coaster absolutely swept the rankings, and it stole my #1 spot. I'll be posting reviews for some of these coasters sometime in the near future. They also do have some great flat rides, one of which is Falcon's Fury, which is one of 2 Intamin sky jump drop towers. This ride takes you up 335 feet in the air, and then at the top of the tower, the cars lean forward until you are facing straight down, and then you take the plunge down all the way back to Earth. Unfortunately, this ride has been SBNO since early 2022, but we've started to see some cycles and we're expecting a spring opening. Unfortunately, I have yet to experience this attraction, but I'm sure the ride will be operating by the time I go. Well, it better be, because that'll be in about 2 years from now. How am I gonna survive? Good question. They've also debuted their brand new SNS Scream and Swing Serengeti Flyer, which is the tallest ride of its kind. I haven't gotten the chance to experience many of their flat rides, but they sure look to not disappoint. Alright, enough talk about the park's history and coasters, let's talk about the actual park itself. So first let's talk about this parking lot layout. There's 3 sections of parking. The first one is standard parking, which is across the road from the actual park. This is the side closest to Adventure Island, Busch Gardens Water Park. But don't sweat it because there's 2 trams constantly driving around, and you shouldn't have to wait more than 10 minutes to get on one. This will drop you off right at the front of the park. But if you just want to be there in the first place, you can also purchase preferred parking. From there, it's only a small walk to get to the front gate. But the closest you'll get to the front is in the disabled parking lot. If you have a handicapped placard, you're good to go. If you do not plan to park your car in the lot, there's also guest drop-off. This will take you straight to the front gate. Of course, this is only to let other guests into the park, and there must be a driver to get the car moving as soon as possible. Then you go through security, you scan your tickets, blah blah blah. Now you're in the park. You're at the main entrance. And the first thing you see is Iron Gwazi. And the only thing that you can think is, oh my goodness, this thing is an absolute monster. It looks so much more intimidating in real life. Like, that caught me off guard. It was huge. And then from the entrance, I'm gonna take you on a clockwise tour of the park. The first thing you'll come across is the Zagora Cafe, which just has basic American food. It basically just has burgers, chicken, salad, fries, PB&J, and some desserts. And then we will come up with our first attraction, Iron Gwazi. This is the first thing many people are gonna want to get to. For A, being an RMC, we all know how that goes. And B, for it being in the front of the park. These factors together mean that this ride can rack up some pretty gnarly wait times. And if you want to skip that line, you're gonna have to buy a quick queue, but not just any quick queue. You have to buy a separate pass that you can use one time on Iron Gwazi, unless you pay annually for a quick queue, but unless this is your home park, you're probably not gonna want that. And it's ridiculously expensive, so there's that. If we keep moving in that direction, you'll see Gwazi gliders, and then we'll find this place called Springs Tap Room. This is a bar, but you can also use this as a shortcut. It's much easier than just going around, and it gives you a nice air-conditioned break from the hot Florida sun. This will drop you off right by the Sesame area, which is an area designed for children with attractions such as Air Grover. There's more stuff for children along the way, and then after a little walk we will meet our next attractions. If we go down the path a little bit and then take the stairs down to your right, you will see Sheikra. But you're gonna want to be careful because of the location where it dropped you at. If you do not move through at the right time, so if you wish to stay dry, just pay attention to where Sheikra's train is. Wet or dry, assuming you made it past that area, you will then end up by Sheikra's entrance where there is a water ride called the Stanley Falls Flume. It is currently undergoing some annual maintenance, but is scheduled to reopen soon. So continuing along the path, if you make a left, you will find another roller coaster called Tigress. But if we turn right, we'll go along a path. You can take a left turn by the entrance of the Sky Ride, and that will take you to an area that has animals and a Chick-fil-A, and then you'll go through a bridge, which is under and above Kumba's Cobra Roll. And then if you turn around, you will eventually find the entrance to Kumba. On the other hand, you can go right past the Sky Ride's entrance, and that'll be a straight shot to get to Kumba. So let's backtrack a little bit to the intersection right after you go past the Sky Ride. If you make a right, then it will take you to a plaza with a few attractions, the star of the show being Falcon's Fury, in which I've already discussed this ride previously. And then we have Scorpion, a classic Schwarzkopf single looping coaster, which is the oldest operating roller coaster at the park. And then there's also the god-awful Sand Serpent. Finding the next attractions is going to be a very long walk, and once you get there, you will see Cheetah Hunt's Windcatcher Tower. If you take a left and keep moving forward, you will encounter Egypt, a themed area of the park with 3 star attractions. The first of which is Cheetah Hunt, in which the entrance is to the left, where the pathway splits. And if you pay attention along the way, if you look to your right, you should see a cheetah. There's also the Serengeti Overlook, in which you can grab a bite to eat there. And there's even a pass holder lounge. Yes, there is a private area reserved for pass holders only in the building, and it looks pretty nice. I haven't actually been in there, of course. obviously, but I've seen videos of the inside of it. I love Busch Gardens for taking the extra step to do that. Going back to where the path splits, if you take a right, then you will encounter two attractions. The first one that you'll stumble upon is Cobra's Curse, and when you're walking past it, it looks outstanding. It fits really well into that area. Straight in front of you, you will see Montu, one of the best B&M inverts in the world. And that's pretty much it for the park's layout. Now let's talk about what this park does well and what they can improve on. Let's talk about the good first. This park obviously has a great coaster collection. They have a great top 3 at the park, which in my opinion are Iron Gwazi, Cheetah Hunt, and Montu, with a great supporting collection with Kumba, Tigress, Shikra, and Scorpion, and then a good family collection with Cobra's Curse, Air Grover, and Sand Serpent. They also do have 2 water rides. Another great thing about this park is it's beautiful, like it's very visually appealing to just walk through. Scenery aside, they also do have quite a few animals. You know, you're walking through, you'll see like flamingos or tigers. They've also got some pretty cool exhibits. Like I'll always remember that there was one where you climb up a ladder and then you peek your head through a window and you get up real close with a tiger. This park just has it all. Alright, now let's talk about the things that this park could do better. The main thing I want to get at here is their ride operations. I'm gonna use Iron Gwazi here for an example. Their system of safety checks chew up a lot of time. You know how with many RMC hybrids you're asked by the ride operator and the attendants to leave your lap bar up? Iron Gwazi doesn't do that. I'm gonna use another RMC in comparison. Let's take the Joker at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom because I'm very familiar with that ride. There are 2 attendants doing the safety checks, 1 on each side. They ask all riders to leave their lap bars up and just buckle their seatbelts. The attendants will check your seatbelt and then push the lap bar down for you. After that's done, that seat is good to go. Once row 12 has been checked, they get into their boxes and then boom, out the station just like that. Assuming that there's no difficulties, train should be out the station in no more than 90 seconds. Now let's look at Iron Gwazi. Same drill, 1 attendant per side. This time they start at the back of the train, and all they do is check your seatbelt and then move on. After your seatbelt has been checked, you are expected to pull your lap bar down on your own. And then the operators go from the front to the back, but only to check the restraints. But the good thing is the operators don't tend to push down, instead they pull up, which is practically the only benefit that comes out of this, as the train is out in a minimum of 2 minutes. Yikes. If someone is having difficulties, it usually takes around 3 minutes. This can really hurt the ride's capacity. I do enjoy the extra air time, but on a busy day, parks need to keep those lines moving to get as many riders as possible, which is why I suggest going back to the original RMC system. I'm also going to take Montu for example. So now this will vary on the day, but this was a problem on the day that I went. And the issue was they were only doing 1 train operations, and the reason why that's an issue is because it managed to rack up a 70-minute wait. That's 10 minutes longer than Iron Gwazi's wait. Keep in mind that Montu is a relatively unpopular attraction. It usually doesn't get longer than a 10-minute wait. Now that all that's out of the way, let's talk about my personal experiences at this park. This is my 3rd time going here. The first time I ever went, I was around 6 or 7. All I remember is that I went there to ride Cheetah Hunt after watching it on Insane Coaster Wars. Last year, after many years, I finally got to revisit the state and I paid this park a visit. And it was a pretty good day. Crowds were light. I got to ride a lot of things, except for rides that were closed for maintenance. That included Shikra and Montu, but that was no biggie. The real disappointment was that Iron Gwazi was not open to the public yet. It was open to pass holders, so the ride was operating, just rubbing it in my face. So I fought long and hard to come back this year, and it happened. And it was bittersweet, I could say. I finally got to ride Iron Gwazi, which, oh my goodness gracious, and I was also accompanied by my bestie Biko. But here's the letdown. We went on President's Day. Crowds were relatively high, and that combined with their operations, not looking so good. I just wish I got to do more that day. I just didn't get enough of the park, but that's also kind of my fault because I couldn't wait any longer to ride Iron Gwazi. But 2 rides on it is better than nothing, so I'll take it. But it also does sting that I'm probably not going to be able to revisit this park until 2025, unless we find a way to squeeze it in next year. So there we have it. That's Busch Gardens Tampa. It is an amazing amusement park that I cannot get enough out of. I really wish I can get the chance to to visit this park more frequently. So what would I rate this park out of 10? I'd give it a 9.25. This is a near perfect park, but I do have some criticisms that I've mentioned before. My main criticism here is the operations, so if they could clean that up, that would play a huge role in getting it closer to a 10. I would highly recommend this park to anyone in the world. If you're a roller coaster lover, this is a park that you're gonna want to go out of your way to get to. Anyways, that'll be it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I hope I helped everyone learn a thing or two about this park. And I'm out now. Peace.